Yeah, so I keep struggling through this. I think I'm just going to word salad this, and somewhere in here is going to be a cohesive thought, and that's going to be what that is. But yeah, the Try Guys, married guy got caught cheating with a subordinate at their company and is now no longer working there. By this video coming out, I will have missed the zeitgeist kind of on purpose because I didn't want to really ride that wave. But I do think it opens an interesting conversation about entertainment and sort of workplace relationships and entertainment, especially because it's weird and it's confusing, and it's weird. Did I say weird enough? Because it's weird. So I like you. If you know anything about the Try Guys, I basically don't anymore. I watched them when they were on BuzzFeed, and then when BuzzFeed imploded, I kind of stopped watching them because I feel like I aged out. But I'm jealous that they had such a great premise and they were able to capitalize on it and make this dynasty. It's awesome. I'm so mad I didn't think of this. But they did. They're crushing it. But when I saw the headline that one of the Try Guys was fired for infidelity, my brain immediately went to it was married guy. I maybe everybody else recognized that too, or maybe I just, I've been in the industry, so you can kind of tell, or maybe I just guessed really well, but I feel like you can kind of tell, because I came up through the stand-up comedy scene and the club scene, the comedy club scene and the reality scene, and so there's like a well-known secret, like the worst kept secret, which is like the filthy comic on stage, the comic that goes really blue, the comic that offends people, tends to be a total sweetheart in person. A lot of times they're just, like they're playing a bad guy character on stage, and then they're awesome. I point to, as an example, Anthony Jeselnik. He talks about being a bad guy wrestler on stage, and then he's just like a regular dude when he's not. There is a vice versa to that, though, which is the clean comics are the ones you got to watch out for because they seem to be the most horrible. And without naming names, anecdotally, yeah, I've worked with some clean comics. I've worked with some like your best friend comics that sell out stadiums, and they suck. They suck, I think, is the nicest way to say it. They suck. I feel so horrible for their family members because, oh man. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So when I saw a married guy, because it's tall guy, hot guy, short guy, and married guy, and the married guy got busted for infidelity. And I think the reason really why they fired him, really, other than the fact that it negatively affected their brand as sort of like a nice brand, is it was with a subordinate, which is incredibly inappropriate in any industry. There's a power dynamic there, and that's super inappropriate. It happens though, and so that's kind of what I want to talk about is. So like on-set romances, right now the thing that's in the news is Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles and Don't Worry Darling. From the little that I can understand about what happened, I'm definitely on the side of Florence Pugh because it seems like at the end of the day, Olivia Wilde abandoned her duties as being a director and Florence Pugh is mad about it. I get it. I'm on the side of Florence Pugh, the actor, on this one because yeah, if your director doesn't tell you what to do, how can you possibly make a movie? Makes sense to me. Maybe when more information comes out, my opinion will change, but tracks for me right now. Yeah, I think especially in the entertainment industry and especially with creatives, on-set relationships happen. And I think it's like a perfect storm of bad situations to make a relationship. And so I'm not convinced anybody ever has intended to start a relationship on set because why would you? Because it's such a bad idea. It's sort of the don't date your coworkers kind of thing, which I've learned my lesson a few times about. There's a more blunt way to say it, but don't blank where you blank. But it's a thing, and I think on set especially, there's pressure, but it's also the crazy long hours, the exhaustion, and the fact that you're around these people, so much, so often, you inherently bond with these people. Really, really deep bonds. Crew members bond with each other. I'm very, very close to several people on the CBS show I worked with. It's just, the hours, the suffering, the common goal, all that kind of stuff. And the fact that you're exhausted all the time, you bond. It is what it is. I think it goes to another level when it comes to sort of directors and actors, especially the actors, because the actors are experiencing everything the crew's experiencing: exhaustion, being overworked, terrible hours, all the terrible stuff. But in addition, their job is these emotional swings and these heightened emotions, because that's how they're delivering their performances. And so, to be emotionally exhausted is to open yourself up to emotional connections you would have never expected. And so I don't think it's a coincidence that, like, for instance, Zooey Deschanel, I'm pretty sure, is still married to her executive producer on her show New Girl. It's just a thing that happens. You spend time with people, you're around people, and especially for an actor dealing with, actor stuff, it's going to happen. It doesn't help if you're an actor, you're kind of a public figure and you have all these other pressures going on. So it's a thing that happens. I having seen enough of them happen now, I would say don't ever do it, because it almost always goes badly. But it's going to continue to happen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where else to go from here about talking about that. It's a weird thing. I don't think the average person really understands what a film set is. It's basically working on an oil rig, except instead of like the risk of losing your fingers or that, it's just like the job could be just gone tomorrow. And so there's that level of stress. It's 12 plus hour days. And if it's a TV show or if it's a well-funded movie, it could be for months or years, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, possibly. And you're working, you're chugging along, and you have to inevitably rely on the rest of the crew members working with you, not only to do their jobs and continue the ongoing push that is the show or the movie, but at some level they're your family, because you if you work on set, especially if you work on anything longer than a couple days, your social life becomes set at a certain point. It's a little different for actors because they have a little bit more control over their schedules sometimes, but it's sort of like a thing where if I'm about to go on set, I just text everybody on my phone and say, hey, I'm going to be on the show. And what that means is they know they don't need to text me or call me and say, hey, we're hanging out Friday night, because I probably won't even be able to text them back. They just won't hear from me for months. And then when I'm free, I'm free. And it is what it is. And it makes for a conventional relationship a lot harder. I think that's a contributing factor to why, especially in Hollywood, I feel like the average age of marriage, the average age of having kids is like 10, 15 years more than it would be in the Midwest. Because like when I graduated high school, a lot of people got married and had kids. When I graduated college, a lot of people got married and had kids. And I moved to LA, and I'd say anybody in their 20s, probably not married and definitely don't have kids. And then even in 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, maybe married, maybe starting a family at that point, just because it's the kind of person that has success in Hollywood, for instance. You kind of got to put your career first. That's changing, obviously. Every day it's being a little bit more accommodating towards the idea of just even the simple task of being allowed to leave to go pick up your kids from school is finally being not a frowned upon thing. But yeah, it's a grind. And so I don't know. It's so weird that so I don't know. On the face of it, Try Guy getting fired for infidelity, for the sake of the brand, for the sake of their squeaky clean brand, sure, but really only because he did it with a coworker and not with just a non person that's part of the crew. But short of that, like even Hollywood stuff, like divorce is rampant. Like almost everybody over, I'd say, the age of 35 on a set has been divorced by maybe 40, just because it's the hours, and you either comply or you somehow do something else that doesn't require you to be on set constantly, which often means leaving the industry. Yeah, so I don't know. I've been bouncing around, but I just thought it was, I thought the Try Guy getting fired was an interesting talking point, because there's this actors especially are known to be like these emotional people who definitely should talk about some things like acting, but I'm not necessarily convinced that they need to be talking about world events or politics or something that, you know, I feel like if they did any amount of research, it would have helped them, but they can't help themselves but not do research about it first. But at the end of the day, you know, the Hollywood lifestyle, the set lifestyle, it's grueling. And so, you know, I kind of give everybody a bit of a pass on set. Even, you know, like you see a guy, you know, you're finishing a show or you're finishing a movie, and this guy's about to get married, and then like a couple years later you're on a set with him and you're like, hey, how's the wife? It's like, well, we just finished getting divorced and we're fighting for custody of the kids. It's a thing. You know, I can't speak to if it's more common in any other thing. I know having worked in the industry at this point, let's see, I got in the production company when I was 23, so it's been 12 years. It's been almost 12 years. Life happens, and how you deal with it in the entertainment industry is really up to you, but at least historically, it's been very against the idea of anything other than total sacrifice in the pursuit of the goal, whatever that goal is. And so it's tough. I certainly don't feel bad for the Try Guy getting fired for infidelity, because just the brazenness alone. I mean, the fact that he got caught and his fans reported him to the other Try Guys, like, that's it's one thing to cheat, and I would never condone cheating. It's a deal breaker for me in relationships. That's one of the very first things I tell somebody I'm considering a relationship with. I say, hey, cheating, infidelity, any of that, it's game over. It doesn't matter who's doing it. It's you know, I hope we would break it up immediately, but it's over. But when it comes down to it, this entertainment industry is just chaos, and so, you know, it is what it is. I don't know how to end this, because I realized this was just free flowing and just chaos in itself. But yeah, Try Guys is now the Try Guys, and sure, that's fine by me. Hopefully it doesn't completely torpedo the rest of their careers, because I would have a real bone to pick if the infidelity of one of the quartet cost the entire crew to lose their careers, which is the thing that happens all the time. I would have a real problem with the person that did that. I really would, because at the end of the day, you should know better. It's as simple as that. You know, I guess you could look into the psychology of, like, what would cause a person to cheat. How could a person be so, you know, wrapped up in their own thing and so confident that they would just go out in public and get caught by their own fans, and then ultimately not only blow up their own marriage and obviously mess with the kids now, but they're ruining their own company. But at the end of the day, it's just, you know, so I don't know. For the sake of this channel and for the sake of the kind of stuff that I'm doing, treat people like human beings. I know that seems like a complete, like, no-brainer, but especially when you're in a situation with high stress or high pressure, especially if there's a power imbalance, like a director is more powerful than a PA, for instance. Yes, you can sort the worst instincts of a person's personality can come out, and you got to check yourself. So, you know, the industry is evolving in ways that I appreciate. You know, writers' rooms are letting people go pick up their kids from school, which used to not be a thing, or at least a not, you know, appreciated thing. It was kind of frowned upon. Yeah, that kind of stuff. But also just no jerks on set, you know, like, filmmaking is so expensive, so time consuming, and so life consuming. Like, you know, you're basically throwing away whatever amount of years of your life until you have made it, whatever that definition is. Yeah, it's a cynical way to look at it, but it is kind of the reality, especially for actors. They're basically giving up their 20s in the hopes that they have enough success that they can sort of have control in their 30s. And, you know, for most, it doesn't work out. And so, no jerks on set really does help the idea that treat people like human beings, I guess. So, you know, I I don't necessarily think the Try Guy that cheated on his wife publicly, and then at least the few responses I've seen since he got removed have not been great. I don't have much sympathy for that guy because I consider him in the column of jerks on set. But short of that, you know, like, everybody needs to be treated with compassion, with respect, and, you know, acknowledging the pressure is not the same thing as using the pressure to justify bad behavior. Yeah, and also, you know, bringing it back, working in comedy, and I think it works with everything. The squeaky clean, super awesome, you know, nice guy who's like family friendly, and you can put him on cruise ships because he doesn't swear. I would keep everybody possible away from that guy, because that guy has some weird stuff going on that's going to be a problem for anybody he interacts with. Whereas the guy who says, you know, all the swear words and makes people uncomfortable, he's probably just a regular dude, because human brains are just weird like that. So anyway, you know, I don't expect you to take any of what I've said as fact, but it's just, it is what it is. I'll catch you next time.